Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I'm the Grace Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Tuesday, April 30th, 2024. First card that we are starting our day off with today, as I mentioned, was that Queen of Cups energy. So, as I was saying, what did we see that was happening during that cycle that we were just energetically coming out of? We had the combined effort of the eclipse decompression point that was happening. On top of that, we had the Mercury retrograde. And on top of that, we had that Scorpio full moon. So there was a lot of this energetic intensity that we were experiencing. I want to say that for the feminine and masculine energy, we saw that they were navigating that in very different ways. It was a little bit energetically easier for the feminine, bearing in mind that this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Because we saw that for a lot of the feminine energy, that feeling, being able to focus on what that typically type of energetic signature brings out, i.e. things related to focus, things related to concentration, things required in terms of probing within the self, that was the type of energy that was going to feel very, very amplified during that type of process. And we see that for a lot of the feminine energy, doing that energetic unpacking may have felt like that sense of coming into a better understanding of self, particularly in relationality to anything that you've been energetically holding on to and how to basically facilitate the healing of it. Now, this was having a different impact depending on whether you align in the frequency of divine union or coming into divine union. And we see even now that a lot of that energetic frequency, that buildup and that ability to be able to process that, even now we're getting that point of having some of that still water that is coming through outside of all of that energetic intensity. Through that point, for feminine and masculine energy in the heart of the divine union frequency, one of the things that we're identifying that has a lot to do with this right now is that sense of building into the ability to be expressive, the ability to be emotionally open, the ability to really navigate forward and have that sense of energetic confidence. And we see even now that for the feminine energy, that ability to feel that sense of energetic security is what is helping to create that sense of energetic commitment that we saw that was occurring as of yesterday, and some of this energy that's coming out of that eclipse cycle. Masculine and feminine energy in the heart of the divine union frequency. This is heavy energetic work that we're seeing that is occurring here. There's a lot of unpacking and potentially even navigating spaces and places that you don't typically energetically go. We identified and saw that for the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency right now, the ability to make the exception for the rule, the ability to move into a space or place that you're not typically ready to go, the ability of feeling the sense of a counterpart that can meet you in that space. This is energy that has been doing that hard work in building that sense of trust to be able to have those kind of breakthroughs. And so we see even now that for a lot of the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency, being able to speak with that sense of energetic openness is what is allowing for that to feel like it's coming into a state or space of productivity. For the feminine energy, being able to feel the security and safety of emotionally expressing oneself from a place of being able to articulate on your needs, this is where we see that even in the heart of the divine union frequency right now, there's that feeling of energetic healing that's happening not only from within, but also from without, because that is the feminine energy that is experiencing that sense of energetic healing that is allowing for the ability to observe the emotions as opposed to be able to energetically react from them. While for the energy right now that is coming into the divine union frequency, the feminine energy that is feeling that sense of seeing the masculine that isn't necessarily, that is experiencing and taking the energetic wound. If these were moments where they're experiencing triggers, coming to know each other better, finding parts of the self that others don't typically see. For a feminine energy to see and experience a masculine that doesn't utilize those moments of an abandonment wound being discovered as a place of reactivity or taking something energetically personally, rather a masculine energy that almost moves into that state or space of being very energetically protective, of working very hard to facilitate a place or space of not only holding something for the feminine, but holding it in a way that the feminine themselves would aspire and desire to be held. That is the feminine also feeling that sense of energetic healing from the masculine. The interesting thing about this right now has to do with the fact that for the energy right now that is coming into divine union, that has to do with the feminine feeling that sense of the energetic boundary being held. While for the feminine energy at the heart of the divine union frequency right now, that is that moment that is allowing for that deep energetic unpacking on both sides around areas that others typically cannot cross or places that others cannot go. While for masculine energy right now, seeing and experiencing the ability of the feminine to be able to have that point of energetic healing. Masculine energy working through their own wounds, doing their own work of the self, acting as the clear mirror for the feminine by embracing and embodying their own feminine energy. That is for the masculine, feeling like that moment of true energetic security. Because what is the masculine seeing on the part of a feminine? Wherein again, if you're coming into the divine union frequency and you're experiencing that moment, feeling that amplification, finding those sensitivities, the feminine energy that doesn't take it energetically personally. If you're not coming into that state or space of effectively subjecting another to your emotionality, but instead articulating upon how you're feeling emotionally, what are we seeing that the masculine is discovering here? The masculine energy is discovering a feminine that has also done that work of energetic resiliency to such an extent that they can feel the things that they're energetically feeling, but they're not subjecting others to those emotional reactions. Instead, they're utilizing the emotionality to build that energetic bridge. So when the masculine experiences the feminine that's able to build that energetic bridge with them, as opposed to subjecting them to the emotions, that is the masculine that feels the security and safety from the feminine, because that is how these energies effectively energetically protect one another. And so for even now, if this is a moment where the masculine has something that is energetically sensitive, and the feminine would typically like to talk about something, but feminine is able to almost step back, being mindful of what the masculine needs. These are energies that are building into the heart of intimacy because of the emotional and intellectual strength that they're creating in their energetic bond. And that is not something that is coincidental. These are energies that have been doing a lot of work on the self to be able to facilitate energetic partnerships of this magnitude. While for the energy at the heart of the divine union frequency, this ability to trust one another is what is facilitating the ability to push even deeper into an energetic connection by exploring those same places that the energy that's coming into the divine union frequency is being very mindful not to go, because that is a deepening of the act of intimacy, being able to heal something if you recognize that it was brought in from outside the divine union frequency, and now you're finally feeling that energetic confidence in being able to fully heal it. While for masculine and feminine energy that is in separation right now, this is a lot of that energetic equivalent that's potentially allowing for new energetic breakthroughs, new energetic connections. Feminine energy coming out of that heaviness of that retrograde cycle, and it was a lot, potentially having a lot of moments of the past rising back to the surface, either metaphysically or tangibly. The feminine feeling that moment of benchmark, not in the fact that the past didn't return, but if feminine didn't allow themselves to feel emotionally triggered through it, almost feeling that sense of observation and understanding, being able to move out of the space or place of just feeling the emotional reactivity to something. That is the feminine that is feeling like they are truly on that healing journey, because it's not the sense of the feminine that feels like they've stopped being able to feel. This isn't a feminine energy in separation that is suppressing their emotions. This is a feminine energy that is just allowing themselves to feel what they feel, but it's not changing their reactivity, or it's not moving them in a direction against their own desires or against their own manifestations. While for masculine energy right now, working towards feminine in this manifestation is effectively and energetically potentially what a lot of your own work is doing now. Because what is happening now, we see that for a lot of the masculine energy in separation right now, we saw that potentially even during that Scorpio full moon and that eclipse cycle, if you are able to look back on the past, and suddenly you've got some energetic notes for the past version of self, that usually speaks to the fact that your priorities have energetically shifted. What happens often when the masculine energy's priorities shift, being able to move out of that regret space, much like the feminine was letting go of that energetic bitterness, the masculine letting go of that regret space, letting it motivate them forward. Where is the masculine energy going on that healing energy towards? Feminine energy at a place of emotional or energetic balance. Masculine seeing and working towards that right now. Masculine looking to the feminine energy that has been working on that energetic balance. It's what's motivating the masculine right now to do that work from within, to be able to find the counterpart that is able to express it without. Because a lot of the masculine energy right now, in that process of healing, you're recognizing and you're understanding the fact that feminine frequently acts towards you as a mirror. What you bring forth, the feminine, you will often energetically receive. So we see even now that the masculine energy, saying to oneself on that healing journey, if I aspire and desire for an emotionally balanced feminine, then I must become an emotionally balanced masculine. If I aspire and desire a feminine energy that's able to communicate upon their emotionality instead of subject me to it, then I need to work on building a space of being able to, again, emotionally feel what I am feeling without reacting to my abandonment wounds. So we see even now that these energies are feeling very energetically confident to move forward in this direction, having come to some key points of understanding. Second card in our 5-card spread for today is, we've got here our Queen of Swords in its reversal. And what's beautiful right now for a lot of the feminine energy and separation is being able to recognize this, finding a way, again, path work, allowing yourself to hold on to the energetic lessons of the past without carrying forth the bitterness towards the future. Almost doing that work of taking those boundaries and turning them into energetic standards, taking those wounds and making them that focus or that center point in relationality to your own healing. This is the way that the feminine energy and separation is feeling the energetic confidence in being energetically open without having to feel like they have to have their guard up all the time. Because this is almost the feminine energy that's almost allowing their honesty, they're allowing their expression of self to be the point in recognizing and identifying the energetic standard that they're hoping to bring forth towards the masculine. Because that is the feminine energy that is almost feeling to themselves and saying, I need to be able to communicate and express my emotions. I need to be seeking out masculine that's able to do same. And so that's that moment that almost feels like the amplification for feminine of continuing forward in that way, because that's the feminine energy that's almost saying to themselves that the ability to energetically communicate and finding the masculine that can do the same in kind will effectively be the moment of the feminine recognizing and identifying what feels like they are in alignment as opposed to what is not. So we see even now that that feeling of energetic confidence is coming into play right now. It's almost creating that peace through which the feminine feels confident to go forward, but without feeling as energetically guarded as they may have in past moments or past experiences. While for masculine energy and separation right now, this is the same modality. This could be a lot of understanding in relationality to whether if you've been seeing feminine energy that was you were moving towards that was more energetically guarded. You may have to leave that moment of asking oneself and saying, is the feminine energy being emotionally guarded because they're experiencing that from within me? Is that the masculine that's seeing, almost saying to themselves, if the feminine is acting towards a clear mirror towards me and the feminine energy is guarded, I need to look at that and not take it energetically personally, but I almost need to experience it and explore it with a sense of curiosity, with a sense of understanding. What happens when we stop holding ourselves, feeling that moment of allowing ourselves to feel a point of rejection when we experience something from someone, but instead move into that state or space of inquiry? That is that moment that allows for energetic connections to occur, because those are those moments that we start to build a bridge with our emotions as opposed to having them kind of serve as these blockages. So we see even now that for masculine and feminine energy and separation doing this work, this could be feeling like even in separation, either path work of restoration right now or new energetic connections that are being met with a high degree of openness, honesty, and vulnerability. While for masculine and feminine energy, that is coming into the divine union frequency right now. This is the ability of the feminine to feel energetically safe and comfortable and protected to a certain extent. Why? Because if these are energies that are moving into the heart of the divine union frequency right now, and we're seeing that there are moments or modalities where feminine has been expressing has been expressing their emotions instead of subjecting the masculine to their emotions. And if masculine in kind has been taking that same work, doing that same work that the feminine is doing in being able to also express how they are feeling instead of energetically subjecting someone to what they're feeling, or not taking it energetically personal if the feminine is expressing what feels like a past energetic wound. These are energies that are basically saying to one another, I am energetically holding your wound with the same care and preciousness as I would mine. And so we see even now, that's a little bit of a moment for feminine that can feel almost energetically overwhelming, because what happens at the moment that the feminine feels and experiences that sense of being held in that way, it can feel a little topsy-turvy, because it almost immediately remembers, like creates that moment of the feminine remembering the place that the wound was created in the first place. So that's that moment that creates that sense of energetic healing to a certain extent, because it creates that method of comparison via the feminine feels the energetic satisfaction of receiving something that would have prevented the energetic wound from happening in the first place. While for masculine energy right now, having that ability or seeing towards the feminine energy that is able, again, not to come into that reactivity space, but instead to be able to articulate upon what they're feeling instead of subjecting masculine to what they're feeling. That is a masculine that feels very safe towards the feminine as they move into divine union, because that's a masculine energy that says the feminine energy protects the masculine from inadvertently, accidentally harming or inadvertently wounding the feminine. Because that starts with the feminine that's able to articulate upon themselves, that makes it energetically easy for the masculine, so that the masculine doesn't have to guess how to navigate the feminine, because the feminine's basically giving the masculine the map. While for masculine and feminine energy, and that even now, that moment of being like, no touchy, like these are these wounds, these are these places, like the energy that's doing this right now, it's almost like getting those like places on the map that are being shown to one another, that is creating that sense of energetic trust. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that's in the heart of the divine union frequency, this is the exception to the rule right now. You know each other's energetic maps. You even know that some of those spaces or places that are hard or difficult to navigate. But we see that a lot of the energy right now in the heart of the divine union frequency is just going into it. They're just moving right into those spaces and places, if you will. Why? Because that's the difference in terms of experiencing and bringing a wound into the divine union, looking at something and saying, that's not supposed to be here, but I know it's yours, so we'll hold on to it for now, versus someone looking and saying, I think it's time that we can let that go. I think that it's time that we can like look at that and like maybe potentially address that. So we see to a certain extent a lot of that happening right now in the heart of the divine union frequency. And it's difficult. It's a lot of energetic unpacking. Masculine and feminine doing a lot of this work. And for masculine, this may be healing a lot of the past wounds that may have been put there by the feminine. Places and spaces where you may have felt like you were injured at moments that you overstepped and you didn't know that that was spaces or places that you were overstepping, feeling that energetic confusion. This is a lot of the masculine energy coming into their own sense of healing with feminine. While for feminine energy right now in the heart of divine union, having that sense of, again, feeling that point of vulnerability, being able to almost move towards the expression of that vulnerability and feel that sense of energetic safety in those moments. These are how these energies right now are building even deeper into the heart of intimacy while in the divine union frequency. So even here, there's like a lot of really deep quantum healing that is happening and occurring. Third card in our 5-card spread right now is King of Swords in its reversal. I know it's vulnerable stuff, my friends. We've got here our matched combined couple. We've got here the same exact energy, the energy of masculine and feminine, effectively energetically being in alignment in this moment. I'm going to say right now, and I know you guys hate to hear this because I know you're always asking me, when do these energies come into alignment? Might not be a lot of activity today. Why? Because these energies are inhabiting the same modality. So when we see these energies that are inhabiting the same modality, it is not uncommon that it can feel very energetically restive because the counterpart energies aren't impacting each other. So we see even now, this could be a moment that feels I want to say a lot of catharsis coming into play right now, a lot of energetic peace, a lot of energetic acceptance, right? And that moment can almost feel very balanced to a certain extent, but it's also very energetically tender because we've got these swords in its reversal. Now, I got to tell you again, the energy at the heart of the divine union frequency right now, this is a lot of deep energetic healing that's happening. There's a lot of sensitivities here. I told you the reason that these energies could do and facilitate this type of work was given the nature of being able to understand what the other energetically needs. So even being able to come into that state or space of energetic softness, if you will, that moment of navigating something difficult, but being very energetically mindful of the other is what is helping facilitate even now a lot of that deeper healing, because that's that moment of recognizing like what another's sensitivities look like, what another experiences, how another is seen at that moment. These energies feel like they're in balance and alignment to a certain extent. And even now for the feminine energy and masculine, being able to go through that process of energetically healing, it feels like there's a lot of authenticity and potential openness that's coming forth. This is, I told you, this is like the hangover from that Scorpio full moon, because that point of clarity, right? That point of affirmation. What happens when we're honest with ourselves? We feel like we bring that level or degree of energetic honesty towards the circumstances and situations that are around us. Right? And that almost allows for that point of acceptance, because that's not trying to put some kind of energetic like point on something. That is accepting things as they are, right? That's like letting that kind of energetically unfold to a certain extent. And we see even now that that modality is what is allowing for that sense of energetic peace to come around circumstances and situations. While for masculine and feminine energy, this is not that moment of being able to address or touch delicate things right now and feeling the safety and security in doing so. This is quite the energetic opposite. For energy right now that's coming into the divine union frequency, the ability to step back from something, the ability to give something energetic space, the ability to be energetically mindful, if you will, in relationality to what the other needs. Both of these energies, it's not that they're doing the exact thing that they themselves would aspire and desire in a circumstance or situation. They're being very energetically respectful to each other in articulating and saying, I'm going to hold something for you, but I'm not just going to hold something for you. I'm going to hold it the way you would want me to energetically hold it. That is what is deepening and building the tie that binds for energy coming into the divine union frequency right now, because that's almost that moment of seeing someone's wounds, seeing those intimate moments, things that others don't see, and saying, I find you energetically perfect in that point. I don't see anything there that I don't also experience and see. That's how aligned these energies are, that even in their vulnerabilities, it's not that they have the same vulnerabilities, but their capacity to hold the others, to be mindful of the others, shows how much of the work of the self that is occurring there energetically. Masculine and feminine energy right now in separation. I'm going to tell you right now, potentially not a lot of activity right now for the energy in separation, but this could be the moment. I can almost see that there was almost like potentially a lot of breakthroughs that happened over the last few days. That would make a lot of sense, especially with that Scorpio full moon. And this is that moment of energetic catharsis coming into play in relationality to feeling like there even has been a moment of having and experiencing some sort of energetic breakthrough right now in separation. Masculine and feminine. I'm not surprised to see this, because what did we see was occurring right now? We saw that for the feminine energy, being able to release bitterness over the last few days, coming to that work of setting the energetic standard, that is accepting things as they energetically are and feeling the confidence of moving forward, making energetic peace with things to a certain extent. And when we make energetic peace with things, that almost allows for that clearance point in feeling like that path that opens up to us, because that's that moment that we're not just looking back at the past or harboring any kind of energetic resentment towards it. That's that moment that feels like that pathwork of purpose going forward in terms of the lesson that we can learn to set the energetic standard. While for masculine energy right now, if this was the work of releasing regret, letting that motivation guide you forward, that ability of letting that be that pathwork of purpose that is coming into play, this is also setting that energetic standard, if you will, because this is masculine that feels like what happens with masculine energy when you find that sense of energetic purpose. you feel almost that immediate moment of peace, because that's that moment that it doesn't feel effectively like you're energetically lost. It feels like you've given yourself that pathwork of directionality. And for a lot of masculine energy right now, I told you that's that determination point in relationality too, whether that is that act of restoration, if you will, being able to heal and facilitate energetic healing with the feminine from the past now that if you've changed your priorities and standards, or that is the masculine energy that is building that sense of doing better in the future with new energetic connections of feminine. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Fourth card in our 5-card spread for today is, we've got here our 8 of Cups in its reversal. One of the things that we see that's important right now, and this is the beauty of it, this isn't energy that feels like they're just letting go of the past or they're just forgetting the past. This is the energetic equivalent of feeling like you found what is necessary to take with you as you go. So we see even now a lot of that energetic release, a lot of that sense of energetic acceptance. But it's that moment that almost feels like you're clearing some kind of hurdle or blockage. Because again, if this is feminine energy that is finding a way to move forward in separation, but holding that ability of not holding on to the bitterness, almost being able to transform that into the standards that you're setting towards yourself as you move forward at this time. That is the feminine feeling the energetic confidence in carrying forth, because that's that moment of looking back to the past and saying, of course I'm going to look back to the past. When I look back to the past, I don't look back to the past to get angry. I don't look back to the past to like pour poison in myself. I look back to the past to reaffirm my energetic standards going forward. I look back to the past to remind myself about why I have those energetic standards. So we see even now that this is the feminine energy, almost again, taking that with them as they go. While for masculine energy, if this is that same work, being able to look back from the past and not just holding on to that point of regret, being able to say to themselves, like yourself, I'm not looking back to the past to hurt myself with regret. I'm looking back to the past to reaffirm my energetic commitment in relationality to what my path of purpose is in the present. Both of these energies having that work of being able to recognize and identify, feeling like the past is something that they're taking with them, but it's something that's almost liberating them in the process, because that's that moment that it feels to a certain extent like it is reaffirming their own energetic commitment as they go. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union right now, what occurs when feminine energy has that moment of being able to express to masculine where their boundaries are, what their weaknesses are, what their wounds are. The masculine building into the heart of intimacy and seeing parts of the feminine that they may not necessarily have known were there, learning about them, being able to articulate on them. That is the feminine, and not masculine taking it energetically personally or trying to push past a feminine energy's own boundaries against the point of them wanting to. That's the feminine feeling that sense of being able to feel the affirmation of looking back to the past, and again, feeling that point of healing, because that could almost be a moment that reminds you of the moment that those wounds were created, in the sense of someone giving you or treating you the way that you would aspire and desire to be treated at that moment, right? So even now we see that for a lot of the feminine energy, feeling that coming into divine union, it can feel a little topsy-turvy, because it's that moment of showing someone. It's like what happens when you have to show someone your energetic map. You have to be like, oh, that's where this happened. That's where that happened. That's why I'm like this. That's why I'm like that. So we see even now that for a lot of the feminine energy going through that, it can feel a little bittersweet to do that, but feeling and experiencing a masculine that is mindful, that is patient, that is listening, that is not taking that as a moment of recoil or taking it energetically personally, but coming into that point of energetic understanding. That is the feminine energy, feeling the confidence of a masculine that is working on their own energetic wounds. While for masculine, potentially having those same moments with feminine, having that feminine energy that's near you and you're able to say, this is sensitive for me. This is a sensitive subject. I'm not sure if I'm ready to talk about this right now. Like almost those moments with masculine, almost the minute the feminine energy says, whatever you're energetically comfortable with, we almost see here that that's almost the masculine energy being like, well, I do want to talk about it a little bit. I do feel that need to, because that's that moment of the masculine feeling the difference of the feminine pushing forward and like requiring that, versus the difference of the feminine saying, whenever you're energetically ready, I am here. Whenever you're energetically ready, I am here to receive it. So for both of these energies, the minute that they feel and they recognize the sense of the other, just being energetically mindful of that, the circumstances by which someone wants to energetically carry their wounds, it immediately allows for a point of breakthrough. It's like almost immediate energetic healing that comes through, because you're almost immediately seeing the reactivity point of someone behaving in the way that did not cause the energetic wounds in the first place. While for masculine, and that's building into the heart of intimacy. While for masculine, and that's that moment that immediately says, maybe I can heal from that. Maybe that's that moment that something can be healed, because you can see the mindfulness of the energy and the compassion through which you're able to build an energetic connection. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is in the heart of intimacy, that is reaching that point where you're just going into those places. For a lot of the energy that has moved forward on this, the important thing that about carrying some of these wounds or scars has to do with a lot of these not necessarily being ones that were created within the divine union frequency. So what is the energy in the divine union frequency committed to doing? They want to heal the self. They want to heal as much as they can. And if they discover and explore parts of themselves that they recognize are unhealed, that is that moment that almost feels like that liberation point, because that's that moment of, again, creating the exception to the rule and saying, typically I hold a standard here. Typically, I have a boundary, but for you, I'm able to energetically express that. For you, I'm able to move energetically deeper, because I know with you that moving forward into a difficult place is not a space or place where a wound is going to be formed. It's almost a place of identifying and recognizing that we are always able to bring healing into those states and places. So we see even now that a lot of that energy, being able to, with that same delicacy and having built that sense of energetic trust, that is what's allowing for a lot of that path work forward. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Fifth card in our 5-card spread for today is, we've got here 3 of Pentacles in its reversal. Now, one of the things that we keep stressing is the fact that for a lot of the energy right now going through this feels like a little bit of unknown territory, right? It's just what happens when you're trying to heal abandonment wounds. It can feel like a little bit of unknown territory. Masculine and feminine energy in the heart of the divine union frequency. One of the things that we see even now that may be like a bit of that, like, I have to say, it's like that unknown point, is that it can feel energetically destabilizing to do work like this, because again, you're recognizing and identifying spaces and places where you know that you have these reactivity points, right? Like the reason we carry those wounds, the reason we carry those scars, the reason we hold those energetic boundaries to a certain extent is because we know that they create that moment of volatility or reactivity within us. So when we experience or we navigate those spaces and places, what is this energy doing to a certain extent? They're articulating to each other that sense of the energetic unknown, right? If you move into that place on the map within the self and it's like you haven't been there before, or there's some kind of energetic wound there, the ability to articulate that, the ability to almost say to one another, this is difficult. I have not spoken about this. I have not addressed this. I haven't unpacked this since potentially even the time that the wound was created. A lot of the energy here could be feeling those moments or those points that can feel a little bit like, it can feel a little destabilizing. So what is the energy right now in the heart of the divine union frequency doing to a certain extent? They're being very energetically mindful throughout that process. They're doing a lot of work. And again, that's that moment that requires that sense of not just moving in the way that one would desire and aspire to, but almost being energetically mindful of how the other is experiencing and feeling something. Because that is that moment that almost allows for that degree of energetic cautious and conscientiousness, that back and forth, that effectively allows for that sense of doing something in a way that, again, what happens when we're able to navigate in that way? What is that affirmation? You're not alone on that energetic journey. You're not doing that yourself. We're doing that energetically together. While for masculine and feminine coming into divine union frequency right now, that ability, that sensitivity point, potentially identifying and recognizing and learning each other's map, if you will, that's that moment that again is almost the affirmation of saying, that's a work in progress. It's not the type of work that happens overnight. It's kind of like something that takes a lot of time. So we see even now that a lot of the energy is almost creating that conscientious moment of saying to one another, we might be a little slow going when we start doing things like this. We might have to we have to navigate, because that's that moment again, almost looking towards the wounds with the other, having that mindfulness, but almost like I told you, like putting an energetic pin in something to a certain extent and saying, if you brought that into the divine union and it wasn't created here, we should look someday to see if that's something that we can heal, if we can unpack that further. Right? And that's that moment that feels like the amplification of saying to someone, whenever you're energetically ready, and even that ability of almost looking at something with that expression of the future is building into that sense of healing, because that's that moment that feels effectively like you're in that state or space of identifying the commitment in terms of looking at something and almost seeing the path in which you'll heal it in the future context. While for masculine and feminine energy that is in separation right now, this is that moment of doing a lot of that healing within the self. This is just the masculine and feminine energy doing that healing within the self. Because if this is feminine energy that is being able to confidently move forward without holding any energetic bitterness or poison, like not holding the bitterness, not filling their cup with the poison from the past, but almost letting that be that moment of setting the standard by which they're going to reaffirm their commitment forward right now. That's the feminine that feels like they're laying new groundwork for themselves, because that's feminine that's not only moving forward, but they're moving forward in a different way. It almost feels like that moment of anything being energetically possible. And again, if this is feminine encountering masculine energy in separation that is doing the same path work, what is the masculine energy doing in separation right now? Doing that path work, trying to energetically let go of regret, letting that be that moment of them setting their own higher energetic standards. These energies right now in separation are matched. So there could be a lot of new energetic breakthroughs in relationality to healing conversations that are happening right now, or new energetic connections. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Queen of Cups in its upright and our King of Swords in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify, please? Clarification coming through right now with our Three of Wands in its reversal. Masculine, I told you, potentially not a lot of conversation today, not a lot of energetic activity. Why, you're going to ask me? Because I'm telling you, these energies right now, they're in alignment. What happens when you got two parallel lines? They're like, boop, nothing much happens, right? But that's almost like that moment that can feel very energetically peaceful to a certain extent. Masculine and feminine energy in separation right now. This is that energy of masculine, again, moving into that modality of the pathwork of purpose, because we see even now a lot of masculine energy in separation, working through that sense of recognizing and identifying which of that directionality that you effectively want to go in towards right now. And we see even now for a lot of the masculine energy, there's a lot here that we're almost seeing in separation that has to do effectively or energetically with that sense of, again, feeling that motivational effort in relationality to where you feel like your own energetic standards are sending you at this time. And I have to say that for some of the masculine energy right now, this may feel energetically bittersweet to a certain extent. There may even be a little bit of that letting go process that we're seeing depending on the directionality of the connections and the energy. There's a lot, it's going in a lot of different places, because there's a lot. I told you what I'm seeing here with the masculine energy is some of the masculine energy is going back to the past to try to effectively energetically right a wrong, right? Some of that energy really building on that pathwork of purpose with that sense of new accountability or new priorities to try to energetically heal something. While for a lot of the masculine energy right now, this could be a letting go process in terms of looking at something that you may have aspired or desired to heal, but not feeling like there is that energetic possibility of doing so, which is affirming your own connect, your own ability to move forward at this time. So we see even now that for a lot of the masculine energy, a lot of that determination has to do with the direction and what you're feeling both called towards versus what you feel is energetically possible. So even now, a lot of that masculine energy, you may be working a lot today with that sense of building one's own energetic confidence, if you will, right? Because one of those moments that we see for a lot of the masculine energy that's navigating right now is moving in the direction that your heart is guiding you, but also with a sense of energetic compassion at play. Feminine energy, and it may feel like, I have to say, it's creating some sense of energetic stillness right now for some of the masculine energy in separation, because I can almost see like it almost feels like masculine is trying to figure out the words to say. Feminine energy in separation right now, one of the things that we're seeing for you is, again, that moment of making energetic peace with circumstances or situations, right? A lot of the feminine energy right now, feeling that energetic equivalent, like what happens when you set energetic standards. When you set energetic standards, it's not the fact that you want to go back to something, right? Because that's not that moment. That's looking at something and saying, I wish I had not allowed something as close to me. I wish I had allowed that moment of understanding and seeing something before it could energetically occur. So we see even now for a lot of the feminine energy, doing that work is almost that path work of energetic acceptance to a certain extent, wherein the feminine energy in separation is doing that work as well in terms of identifying and feeling that point of empowerment that is almost allowing for that sense of accepting circumstances and situations and moving forward in a way that almost allows for that abundance of peace to come through. Because that is that feminine energy that, again, isn't in the modality of seeking out or changing the masculine energy. This is the feminine energy that's almost moving forward in a way and saying, my job is not to effectively change the masculine energy. My job is to see if me and the masculine energy are in energetic alignment. Because a lot of the feminine energy, that is that sense of personal like validation that is helping you move forward at this time with that sense of energetic conviction. But we might not see, as I said, a lot of activity today because these energies are so aligned. Masculine and feminine energy that is coming into the divine union frequency right now. One of the challenges that we're seeing for a lot of the energy coming into the divine union frequency has to do effectively and energetically with the fact that for the feminine energy, what occurs in those moments of the feminine being able to articulate where these energetic wounds came from. What happens in those moments that the feminine has to like amplify and articulate and show someone what these energetic standards are. This is that moment with the feminine that sometimes can feel even now like a little energetically triggering, because it's those moments with the feminine that almost like bears, I want to say, it's like the feminine almost like not being in a state or space of wanting, like, again, these energies today, almost saying the appreciation point in someone just recognizing and identifying what they are. Immediately building that point of energetic catharsis. And immediately, interestingly, for the feminine, building that point of questioning those same spaces and places, right? Because what happens with feminine energy, the moment they see that masculine energy that is energetically mindful, that it understands, that they recognize they can unpack, that doesn't take things energetically personally. That's that moment for the feminine that suddenly feels like there are new possibilities to potentially heal something, because that's that moment the feminine is seeing that point of feeling alignment with the masculine that is holding their wounds with the same level and degree of energetic compassion as they would their own. Right? Almost immediate breakthrough in that moment in terms of feeling deeper intimacy with someone that almost immediately opens the door to be able to explore something to potentially be healed in the long term. While for masculine energy right now, experiencing or seeing a space or place where you again are able to articulate your own wounds to the feminine, but that feminine not like pursuing or forcing that conversation, not requiring that moment of energetically opening in the same way, being very energetically mindful, being able to articulate their own experiences to you. That is, again, the masculine that almost feels that sense of security and stability with the feminine that can be energetically triggering, because that's a masculine saying, you make something energetically easy. You make something energetically easy because you allow me to articulate it. You accept where I am. You leave the availability open to be able to unpack something when I'm energetically ready. And you don't take it energetically personally, right? So we see that both of these energies right now coming into the heart of the divine union are almost feeling that bond of intimacy form that comes with that energetic understanding of being able to carry someone's wounds, but being very energetically mindful of how one desires them to be carried. While for masculine and feminine energy that is in the heart of the divine union frequency, what we effectively or energetically see is for a lot of the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency right now, this is that moment of energetic unpacking. This is that moment of being able to navigate spaces and places wherein you may typically not be able to, specifically due to the fact that these energies know and they've built that sense of intimacy to such a degree that it allows for that moment of being able to explore something or be able to talk about something or be able to address something that you haven't before, specifically because you feel the safety and security of, as I said, like the energy coming into divine union, that mindfulness of someone appreciating and respecting the delicacy and the care through which something needs to be held, even as you are doing something difficult with it. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Queen of Swords in its reversal and our King of Swords in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with Six of Pentacles in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy in the heart of the divine union frequency. What do we keep seeing that's happening here? We're seeing that a lot of that energy right now in the heart of the divine union frequency is almost taking a little bit, they're taking that sense, I want to say they're utilizing that sense of conscientiousness. They're utilizing that space of care. They're taking that moment of effectively or energetically, even now, that moment of stillness. And I need to stress this, even now, being able to navigate through a difficult circumstance or situation. And what happens? What happens in the moment that you're able to navigate forward on something that is usually energetically triggering? What happens in that moment that someone is able to touch something that typically brings or renders an energetic trigger in you, and nothing happens? That is the moment that this stillness feels like the energetic victory, because that is that moment wherein, again, you feel the possibility of something potentially energetically healing, because even in that moment, not seeing the reactivity of the counterpart, not experiencing something that may have created the energetic wound, almost allowing that like unfolding process, if you will. There are moments where the stillness itself is the amplification of healing and peace that's able to enter something, and the ability for these energies to almost move into that non-reactive space wherein you may address something that would typically create that point of reactivity, but almost feel that energetic peace as you do so. That is the validation point of something energetically working, right? It's not easy, it's vulnerable, but it's also energetically successful. So we see even now, there's a lot of that energy that's feeling that like energetic catharsis coming towards circumstances and situations, specifically because something that you may have felt like in the past would have created a volatility point in you, building with the counterpart in such a way that it doesn't, like that's moving deeper into the heart of intimacy to a certain extent. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union frequency, the opposite is true. What happens when you're building into the heart of intimacy with someone and you hit what would typically be a tender button, but instead of coming into a space of reactivity, you simply articulate on it. You simply have that ability to say, like, this is a little bit of a sensitive subject for me, not reacting to it, not subjecting another to emotions, but almost just building the map for the other to say, this is a little bit of a no, this is a little bit of a no-go area for me. This is that energy that feels that sense of the deepening of the commitment, the deepening of the heart of intimacy, because that's the moment of seeing someone and saying, okay, and this is the energy almost saying to themselves, having that conversation. In the moments that is unavoidable, what would you like me to do? Even that, look, these energies are moving into divine union so well right now that a lot of the energy is saying, okay, I understand that that's a no-go area, but even if there's something here that becomes unavoidable, like what can I expect? You see this? Like these are the energies that are again showing each other their maps to get a better understanding of what can't be touched. So we see, again, a little bit of opposite reactivity happening for the energy at the heart of the divine union versus the energy coming in, but the same energetic work. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that's in separation, I got to say there's a bunch of new energetic connections that are starting up right now. I'm not surprised to see it. We've got this Mercury that's gone direct. And a lot of this is just either leading to, again, a lot of new breakthrough conversations in relationality to healing, which I think are going to be very vulnerable and very beautiful, because I see the fact that there's like a lot of just a lot of acceptance, like a lot of energy just kind of coming towards one another with like their armor down to a certain extent, which is really kind of lovely. And the thing about that's so lovely is the fact that the energy is not moving in this way in order to impress the other counterpart energy. This is energy that's trying to be their most authentic version of self in the process of meeting another for the sake of being able to see another's authentic expression of self. So we see even now, this is energy that's coming out, that's in, like I'm going to say coming out of separation to a certain extent and saying, I don't want to put up a false sense of self. And feminine saying, I don't want to have to feel like I need to change to suit a masculine energy. Masculine energy saying, I want to be my most authentic version of self so I can find the counterpart that's truly for me. So we see even now a lot of this energy doing a lot of work on the self to try to be as authentic and vulnerable as possible, all for the sake of being able to almost, again, build like on that healing journey of trying to find the energetic counterpart that feels like they're in energetic alignment to you. So this is, again, a lot of restorational work in terms of a lot of like authentic conversations right now, or a lot of new energetic connections that are being made at a moment that almost feels like, I want to say it like feels very raw and vulnerable, but it feels very positive because it's like meeting someone at that moment that it feels like, you know, they're like, I want to say, energetically cleansed of whatever they've been carrying from the past. It's not that it's with them. It's just that they're carrying it very authentically, as it were. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our King of Swords in its reversal in combination with our Eight of Cups in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Four of Pentacles in its upright. Now for masculine and feminine energy that is in separation right now, this is that moment that I see, again, this is a lot of like slow, this is the very slow energy. There's a lot of slow start here, right? Because I see even now, this is energy that's like moving forward to a certain degree with like energetic trepidation. You know what I mean? Like a lot of this is that moment that there's a little bit of like, there's a little bit of care here. There's a little bit of conscientiousness, if you will, for both masculine and feminine energy. For masculine energy right now, one of the things that we're effectively energetically seeing is for the masculine energy moving forward in this way, it is difficult because we see even now, like for the masculine energy, this feels like a very vulnerable way to move forward in terms of an energetic connection. And I see even now that for a lot of the masculine energy in separation, it feels a little bit energetically challenging to a certain extent, right? Masculine, it can often feel very challenging to be energetically vulnerable. But what we see for a lot of the masculine energy right now that's moving forward in separation, this is almost masculine energy that's articulating on their own difficulty in being energetically vulnerable. Like this is almost the energy itself saying, I recognize that I am not energetically perfect when it comes to being authentic and vulnerable. But even that is, and for feminine energy, if in separation, seeing masculine saying that, feminine energy is like, that's a good start. Like that's the feminine energy. That's like the feminine energy, seeing masculine saying something like that or moving in that way, being like, it's hard for me to talk. It's hard for me to be vulnerable in this way. I'm working like that's a feminine being like, doing just fine. Like you're doing just fine. Because that's the feminine energy that, again, that's feminine energy saying any sign, the smallest amount, the smallest ability, to do that, the smallest ability is all it takes. It's this big. It doesn't have to be. Feminine is like the tiniest little grain. If you have the tiniest little ability to do this, if you can navigate that, if you can see that, if you can come into that point of saying, it's hard for me to be able to be energetically vulnerable. Feminine's like, that's it. That's good. This is exactly what we need to see. Because that your ability to observe it, your ability to even recognize and identify and articulate on it, that is the start through which it can grow. Like that is the seed that can grow into that ability to do so. So this is, again, the feminine energy, seeing that in the masculine, that immediately starts to make the feminine feel that sense of energetic confidence. So that's either, again, that path of energetic restoration, as it were, or that is the energy right now of new energetic connections that are potentially taking shape right now for both masculine and feminine in relationality to very vulnerable conversations. So this is the start of vulnerable conversations with a lot of that authenticity and openness at play. Masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union right now. That sense of energetic release, that sense of easement, like what happens in the moment that you discover another's vulnerabilities, and instead of someone feeling like they're a reactivity point, instead of someone saying that that's a bridge too far, instead of someone saying like criticizing or saying, well, you need to change that or adjust that, coming into that point of energetic acceptance. Almost saying, thank you for giving that to me. I will be very mindful with that. Thank you for saying that to me. I will be very careful with that going forward. The minute we experience that is the minute that we start to be able to revisit something, because it's the minute that we recognize that we are in an environment wherein what we're experiencing around something is going to be energetically different, because we're already seeing the validation point of something being energetically treated differently. So we see even now that for both of these energies, that sense of being able to feel that being able to take one's armor off. For masculine, having that feminine energy, not coming into a state or space of, again, trying to change the masculine, but almost coming to that space of leaving that point of energetic openness, being able to articulate upon what they need, as opposed to just telling that moment of the masculine how they energetically feel, building a bridge with the emotions instead of subjecting others to the emotions. This is a lot of the work of the masculine feeling energetically safe with the feminine, because that is the masculine that feels, again, that sense of the feminine making something energetically easy. While for feminine, feeling that masculine being receptive to taking those wounds, understanding that map that you're showing them those spaces and places, and them saying, I'm going to guard those spaces twice as carefully now. I'm going to grow a garden in those spaces that you're feeling vulnerable on. That mindfulness of the masculine almost taking your map and making it their own. Both of these energies building into the heart of intimacy around those points right now. While for masculine and feminine energy that is in the heart of the divine union frequency, the ability to bridge forward into those places, the ability to move into those places that you would typically not be able to go, the ability to have those hard conversations, that is building upon the exception to the rule, as it were, that once energies are able to come into that heart of trust and intimacy, allows for the deepening of energetic partnerships, even in the heart of the divine union frequency, because it is the preciousness that another has proven and shown time and again that allows for that validation point in recognizing the feeling of energetic security as you move forward into spaces and places that feel like they are somewhat unknown. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Eight of Cups in its reversal in combination with our Three of Pentacles in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Eight of Swords in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy in the divine union frequency. This easement, this feeling of energetic easement to a certain extent, it almost feels like that wave of relief to a certain extent, because what we're identifying and recognizing for a lot of the energy right now in the heart of the divine union frequency, being able to navigate spaces and places that you haven't before. It can feel like energetically bittersweet, but a lot of this energy, again, it takes that little bit of that wait and see approach around circumstances and situations to a certain extent, because it's almost that moment that you don't know, right? Like it's that moment of like not knowing what's on the next horizon point. So we see even now that for a lot of the energy doing that work, it feels, it can feel a little raw. It can feel a little shaky because you're doing that work of like moving forward, letting go of what doesn't energetically serve you and not knowing what's going to be around the next corner. So it's that moment that, again, what is the affirmation that the energy in the counterpart is offering at that time? I am with you. I am with you. I also feel that way. I also feel that way. I am here. We are doing that together. That is that energetic feeling, and the ability of recognizing and feeling someone that is experiencing something in the same way builds that wall, like builds that moment of feeling that sense of energetic trust, right? Well, for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union, the ability of seeing someone, showing someone those spaces and places and saying, these are the no touchy zones. These are the places I carry wounds. These are my vulnerabilities. These are my insecurities. This is something that I got from here. This is something I got from there. Carrying something into the divine union frequency is that moment that we almost see here. The beauty of the energetic connection is the opposite. Almost someone being able to identify and say, thank you for showing them to me. Because now you've energetically shown me all the things I want to fix. Now you've shown me effectively all the things that we're going to repair going forward. But is this energy doing so because they want it and demand it at the moment? No. They're being very energetically mindful of almost saying, when the time is right. When the time is right. When you're in that modality, when you're in that expression, because these are the energies coming into divine union right now that are building upon that center of saying that energetically mindfulness moment between holding back something that is limiting the self versus having that moment of being able to energetically tackle it together. So we see even now that a lot of that energy, that mindfulness, is one that almost allows for that conversation to evolve and begin in relationality to helping someone see those possibilities of what they're energetically carrying that might not necessarily be energetically serving them in relationality to that highest version of self. But these are energies that are just kind of starting to learn how to do that work. While for masculine and feminine energy that is in separation right now, the masculine and feminine energy in separation, this is a lot of that energy that I just keep seeing, new ground. Either new ground to heal right now or new ground ready to step forward and start something energetically new. For masculine energy, again, a lot of this has to do, and this is where we see some of the masculine energy going in different directions. This is either masculine energy that's going back to the past to come into some place or act of energetic restoration. While for other parts of the masculine energy right now, this is taking some kind of deep energetic lesson and moving it and motivating you forward from this point. In both of those cases, we see that sense of positivity and conviction that is helping to articulate that ability to energetically change something, because you've seen something within the self that you're feeling is going to allow for some kind of energetic breakthrough. While for feminine energy right now, that effective energetic commitment, not going back to the spaces and places that you feel like you need to energetically heal from. The feminine energy almost affirming themselves and saying, if and when someone is on the healing journey, They know where to energetically find me. That is the feminine energy that's also feeling that validation in relationality to their own path work, because that's feminine energy that is also going forward. That's feminine energy that's also doing that work. And that's that feminine energy that, again, is freeing themselves from the confines of the past and saying, my direction, regardless, even path work of restoration is that way. It's that way. So feminine continuing forward on their energetic journey. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Three of Wands in its reversal in combination with our Six of Pentacles in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with, we love this energy. We've got here our Hangman in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy right now that is in separation. A lot of this energy feeling that sense of energetic freedom to a certain extent. A lot of this energy right now just almost experiencing this with a sense of, I want to say, like energetic excitement. Like there's a kind of a feeling here that I'm seeing that almost feels like that expression of being like very like ready to like take that step forward, if you will. Why? Because a lot of this energy right now in separation has been successfully navigating through that moment of being able to release what isn't energetically serving them. Remember, I said for a lot of the feminine energy right now, that is letting go of a lot of energetic bitterness, turning anything that feels like it's energetically bitter into something that feels like it's empowering because it's setting the energetic standard going forward. Not wanting to be held down by the past, but almost letting it empower you as you proceed forward on your journey. While for masculine energy right now, that moment of not holding on to regret, not allowing the regret to hold you down, but again, creating that state of energetic empowerment, adding that sense of motivation, learning that the present is a place where all of that regret can be put into action and practice. We see even now that all of this energy right now in separation is feeling that sense of almost energetic release. And it does feel almost like an energetic easement point, because a lot of it is just that letting go process in relationality to anything that you're holding on to that either feels like it's hurting more than it's helping, or anything that you're fixating on that you feel or you're not seeing any ability to adjust or modify. A lot of that, a path of energetic acceptance, allowing for a lot of that energetic breakthrough. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, that energetic equivalent of coming into divine union at this time, that modality of expression wherein we see that you're working to show one another those energetic maps. You're showing them each other those weaknesses. You're showing each other the vulnerabilities. Is that creating a sense of energetic reactivity? No. Is that creating a space or place of energy taking someone else's wounds or insecurities personally? No. What happens in the moment that we show someone a vulnerability point, instead of reacting, instead of subjecting someone to a vulnerability, we're able to articulate and express it. That is that moment that we create the opportunity through which someone can nurture and care for it. And that's a work that you can only do if you're very intimate and you know one's own self. So we see even now that that ability of looking towards one another and saying, you make something energetically easy. This is almost that moment that feels like the expression of love, because it's not the question of just happening to fall into something that feels energetically easy. Masculine recognizes how much emotional intelligence it requires on the part of the feminine to be able to articulate on how they're feeling, taking that emotion and being able to make it something that feels like it is actionable and directive. While for feminine, seeing a masculine that doesn't take that energetically personally, but is almost conscientious of how the feminine is feeling, is mindful and present for it, and then moves into a curatorial place of activating on it to facilitate that mutual growth. That is the masculine. That is also that the feminine is feeling secure, like protected by the masculine. So these energies right now, almost feeling that energetic easement, but it's almost the expression of amplifying and understanding how much work it's taken within the self to do, and then seeing it experienced in the counterpart in terms of identifying and saying, you've done that work too. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is in the heart of the divine union frequency, that modality, that ability to go into those spaces and places that may have been much more difficult in the past. What happens when you've been carrying a wound for a while? What happens when you're ready to unpack something with the energy of someone that you trust? And those moments, it's not the fact that there isn't a reactivity point there. It almost allows for that like energetic easement point, because that's that moment that, again, a deeper level of healing can occur around something that you may have felt like there was an energetic trigger around, because it feels like the amplification of the difference between something that you feel that is wrong within you, something that needs to be healed from within, versus something that you are reacting to from without. And what happens in that moment that the expression of the energy with you shows you that it's energetically safe to feel something. That's that moment that you immediately feel like that point of energetic healing in relationality to feeling that sense of energetic security. So we see even now a lot of that breakthrough occurring, as it were. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Six of Pentacles in its reversal in combination with our Four of Pentacles in its upright. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Eight of Cups in its upright. Masculine and feminine energy in the heart of the divine union frequency. What occurs at the moment that you're able to go into a deeper space of healing around something that was energetically sensitive, and then you're able to forge that? You're able to build a bridge in a place that used to feel like there was a wall. Like, what happens in those moments where you may have felt like in the past there was that moment of visiting something that feels like it was always creating that energetic blockage for you, and suddenly working with the counterpart and seeing that that is not energetically the case. It creates that moment that feels like it's energetically expanding, because again, that sense of not doing something energetically alone creates that moment of possibilities opening, right? That moment of feeling that sense of energetic certainty in relationality to being able to energetically heal something to a certain extent. So we see even now that for a lot of the energy right now in the heart of the divine union frequency, having that difficult work, doing that, potentially even addressing something that you are carrying, something that you carried forth into the heart of the divine union frequency, being able to like almost open your hand up and accept it and relinquish it and allow that point of being able to heal it with the other. That is that moment that suddenly feels like that energetic, like that thing, that place or space that was always something that you held tightly. Like, what happens when like you open your hand in that way and suddenly just all these possibilities flourish forth from it, right? That's that moment that almost feels like the expression of coming into a deeper sense of self, right? And that deeper sense of self is the unfolding of that deeper part of yourself, because it feels the safety and security of doing so, right? While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is in separation, coming into divine union, that modality of someone holding on to something, right? Like, this is the energy that's coming into the divine union, and they got a tight grip on something here, right? That's that moment of holding the wounds that you're bringing into the divine union. What is that energy doing that's coming in? They're looking at that and being like, what is that? And be like, we don't touch this. Like, we don't touch this. We don't touch this. And being like, okay, well, what if I accidentally touch it? Well, this is what you do if you accidentally touch it. Okay, cool. Like, I'm very mindful of this. Like, I'm very mindful of these parts, right? And these energies are already doing enough work to not react, not inflicting them on each other, but being able to articulate upon them. What is those energies really talking about? I hope one day we can open that up. I hope one day, when you're ready, we can open that up and see what's there, because that's that moment that allows for that point of almost feeling that sense of energetic trust coming into play and being able to show something to someone or heal something within that you feel like you're at the moment holding on to in relationality to what you're trying to energetically heal. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Six of Pentacles in its, reverse this, in combination, continuing to. Well, for masculine and feminine energy right now, in separation, a lot of the energy right now in separation, this is a lot of path work of acceptance and possibilities, right? Because what happens, what did we see was happening over the last few days for a lot of the energy in separation? What happens when you come into that state or space where you're able to energetically relinquish something, when you're able to energetically let go. For the feminine, being able to let go of energetic bitterness that builds that sense of energetic standard as you go forward. For masculine, being able to let go of the energetic regret, let that be the motivation that opens and sets your pathwork forward. It's not like these energies in separation are letting go of the past. They're taking something valuable with them as they continue forward into the present. And that is what is allowing that moment or that expansion of possibility, because that's that moment that it doesn't feel like you're walking away from something. It almost feels like you're expanding and you're opening yourself up to all of the energetic possibilities around you. So we see even now that for a lot of the energy in separation, that feeling of energetic expansion and that ability to also release at the same time, that feels like that blossoming of energetic possibilities. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union right now. I mean, we already did that part. Continuing forward, apologies. Continuing forward, clarification between our Four of Pentacles in combination with our Eight of Swords in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with, good, we want to see this type of energy right now. We've got here that Nine of Swords in its reversal. So there's a lot of catharsis today. There's a lot of easement. There's a lot of letting go. But what's beautiful about this process of energetically letting go right now is it doesn't feel like that moment. This isn't like energetically letting go, like just like letting go. This is taking something energetically valuable with you as you proceed forward, right? This is almost like carrying something with you that you feel is precious as you proceed forward from something. And we see even now that for a lot of the energy in separation, this is that moment for both masculine and feminine energy that like it just feels, I want to say, like very energetically freeing to a certain extent, because I can just see the fact is that like, you know, this is feeling like what happens when we're able to look at the past, but through the optics of being able to release the pain from it and just take the value and the possibility and the positivity. Those are that moments that feel like the amplification of feeling the gift or the lesson that the past created that helps set that feeling of moving forward with a greater sense of energetic easement, right? So this is almost like that type of energy that almost says like the value in some kind of energetic lesson that almost helps guide your path forward. Masculine and feminine energy right now coming into divine union, that ability to navigate forward is being based on your own sense of conscientiousness in recognizing and showing oneself like what I'm even seeing like a what is possible versus what is not, right? And I see that even now for a lot of the energy coming into divine union right now. This is a lot of, I want to say, energetic unpacking in relationality to how one energetically feels. There's a lot of nuance here. There's a lot of energetic nuance here in terms of really trying to articulate upon, like I told you, this is a little bit more of that fastidious fine-tuning work. Because as we identified, this may have been the discovery of something that may have set off a trigger, or having someone that felt energetically triggered and being able to navigate forward in that way and being able to try to like understand something better. We see in a way these energies are trying to understand something better in order to be more conscientious about something going forward. So that's that moment. Then again, I want to say that's not crossing an energetic boundary, but that's almost the equivalent of doing everything one can to understand an energetic boundary better, all for the sake of being even more energetically mindful towards something going forward, right? While for the energy right now that's in the heart of the divine union frequency, that ability to do so is not necessarily built on stepping away from something. This is energy that feels that sense of being able to go forward towards something right now. Having those difficult conversations, navigating those places and spaces that one was holding on to something, almost, again, not from a place of energetically coming into a point of like looking towards the other and saying, I think it's time to energetically let this go, but almost with that sense of curiosity and saying, is that something that you're ready to navigate? Is that something that you're ready to do? Because we see here for a lot of the energy right now that's in the heart of the divine union, this is energy that's almost saying to themselves, yes. Yes, I am. Because look, these energies are both in that moment of feeling almost like ready to do so, because it's the feeling of not doing it alone, right? Having that sense, like when we hit those moments of feeling like we're in alignment, that's that moment that can also often feel like that sense of experiencing something in the same way. So even now we see that a lot of that energy is almost saying, I feel the same way as you. And that is what's amplifying the ability to navigate forward in those spaces and places, even if they're energetically difficult. While for masculine and feminine energy, continuing forward on this, we've got between our hangman in its reversal in combination with our 7 of cups in its upright. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Page of Wands in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy that is in the heart of the divine union frequency. This is why a lot of that energy is tackling this right now. Because a lot of this is simply just the work of trying to heal some inner child wounds. This is some deep inner child healing that's potentially occurring right now. And a lot of this, like, so there's like, this is that moment, like this is almost that moment, like what happens in the moment that you're able to navigate towards something that you've been carrying for a long time? What's the first question that you're going to effectively navigate forth? How long have you been carrying that? Right? And that's the beauty and the work to a certain extent that is being given or delivered by the energetic counterpart, because the ability to see something from a different perspective is what allows for that moment of being able to see something in a different way that you might not necessarily have seen prior to that. So we see even now that for a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency, this could be healing some stuff that you've been carrying for a long time, maybe even since childhood, because we see even now a lot of that, maybe a lot of that unpacking, as it were, in relationality, not only to where you're navigating in these spaces and places, if you haven't experienced that before, but being able to go even deeper in something, like that's almost that moment that almost like allows for that point of being able to really ascertain when some kind of wound was created, all for the sake of energetically healing it. While for masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union frequency right now, this is a bit of that energetic opposite. This is looking towards the other and navigating and almost seeing the wounded inner child moments, especially around circumstances and situations. If there were vulnerabilities, if you're seeing those intimate moments, something that like, again, and this could even be a moment that the energy coming into divine union frequency is seeing something about that may feel like it is energetically sensitive. They may already be seeing something about something that is hard to see. But what is that energy doing with that? They're being very energetically mindful of it, because again, that's that moment of looking towards someone and trying to help them energetically see it, and almost like having that moment of saying like, how, like, when is the best time to energetically address this? How do we bring this forward? What do we do here? Like, right? Because that's that moment that the counterpart is always able to see those aspects. And that sense or that desire to energetically heal them, that's that moment that we see to a certain extent. It feels like these energies are almost starting to know each other better than they effectively energetically know their own set, like their own selves, right? That's the beauty of coming into divine union. While for masculine and feminine energy that is in separation right now, this is a lot of that energy doing a lot of work, if in separation, of healing those childhood wounds, healing those childhood traumas. Because for a lot of the energy right now in separation, there's a lot of that vulnerability that's coming into play right now, particularly in building forth towards new energetic connections. And a lot of it It feels difficult. This is feminine energy that is trying to stay very energetically open. This is feminine energy trying not to hold on to any energetic bitterness. And we see even now that that feminine energy right now is moving through that energetic pathwork of discernment and almost looking towards the masculine. And that's that moment of feminine saying, it's not that I'm seeking a masculine that's energetically perfect. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. This is almost feminine saying to a certain extent, I am seeking masculine energy that approaches these things in the same way, that has that ability to contemplate and to discuss and to move forward in this way. So we see even now that is why we see that if this is feminine energy that's letting go of any pathwork from the past, this is how the feminine energy is releasing that, because that's almost the feminine energy saying, I am seeking someone that sees something from my own energetic perspective. That's almost like the starting point, right? And that's for the masculine right now. The masculine also going through healing those inner child wounds feels like that expansion point, because it's almost like these energies that are trying to bring that unhealed inner child out to be able to navigate and meet the other unhealed inner child in a way, because that is where, like, that is why it feels so hard to be energetically vulnerable, because it's like all of those unhealed child wounds come to the surface. But these energies right now in separation, they're not moving away from that. They're not pushing those back. They're being very energetically mindful of their own reactivity point in being that energetically vulnerable, and even their own ability to ascertain and recognize that feels like it's opening up the possibility of new experiences, right? And even now we see that a lot of the energy in separation feeling almost that like sense of energetic excitement, if you will, as they go forward in that way, because it almost feels like that moment of observing and understanding and feeling that sense of like excitement in terms of meeting something and being able to see if there is like that same moment of energetic healing. For the masculine and feminine, there's also this point of recognition. This is coming in waves, right? I can even see it. A lot of the energy in separation is almost anticipating and saying to themselves, there's going to be days it doesn't feel this easy. But what's beautiful about this is for the energy in separation that almost is saying to themselves, I recognize that there are days that it's not going to feel as energetically easy. That's almost a moment that, again, that ability to ascertain and recognize that is that moment that allows for a sense of saying, when it's not easy, I just need to remember how I feel today. I need to like hold on to how I feel today, because today potentially feels like an easier day, recognizing that some days might not necessarily feel that as easy, right? While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union right now, this energetic equivalent, if you will, this is that moment or modality that we're seeing, that for a lot of the energy coming into divine union at this time, this is that moment that, again, what happens when we show each other our vulnerabilities, right? Those are that moments that like we almost start to show, like, these are the energies seeing each other's inner childs. And that's that moment that almost feels like that abundance of healing coming into play, because you're seeing something that someone else can't see within themselves, but you're seeing it in a different way. Where someone sees failure, you see possibility. Where someone sees lack, you see abundance. And that's that energy that's building that sense of commitment in showing someone something to be able to build into that energetic expansion point. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Seven of Cups in its upright in combination with our Nine of Wands. It's a Nine of Swords, apologies. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Justice card, and it's in its upright. Masculine and feminine energy in separation right now. As I said, what's nice about this, and I see this even for a lot of the energy right now in separation, it's not that like, I feel like I see a lot of the energy in separation. I just keep seeing this like wave effect, like this observation in the fact that some days are easier, some days are harder, some days are easier, some days are harder. But again, I have to stress that being able to recognize that your healing is not linear is also a part of the healing journey, right? Because that's that moment of identifying and recognizing that just because you have a day that feels a little lower doesn't mean that that's where you're going to inhabit. You almost see the fact that it's like that moment that feels like your own ability to recognize when that is occurring is what allows for that expansion point. It allows for those possibilities to be there. And we see even now for a lot of the energy and separation, it creates that state or space of energetic balance, specifically due to the fact that it almost creates that moment that feels like energetic easement, right? Because it's that moment of experiencing something and just feeling that sense of like release, particularly because at this moment, and this is like, I'm going to say it, today's like one of those moments that feels like that stillness that almost allows for that sense of balance. And when we have days like that, it's really valuable and important. I almost see a lot of energy saying to themselves, I got to like put this one in the bank, because this is the energy that I want to like remember and hold on to for those days when it doesn't feel as energetically easy. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union right now, for a lot of the energy coming into divine union at this time, what we effectively energetically see is a lot of that energy coming into divine union right now. This is that moment that feels like that energetic sense of relief due to the fact that even at a moment that you're discovering those vulnerabilities, you're discovering those weaknesses. That's that moment that, again, someone looking towards you in that moment and saying, all I see there are possibilities. That I don't see anything there that is energetically problematic. All I see are energetic opportunities. The thing that you hold on to, that you say, I'm afraid this is going to be an energetic deal breaker, and you say, I just see an abundance of possibility and opportunity. That is that moment that feels like an energetic breakthrough moment, because that's that moment that you find balance in the thing that, even the things that you're carrying right now that feel like they're energetic wounds, they feel like they're ripe with possibilities. They feel like they're just expanding completely. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that's in the heart of the divine union frequency, having that ability to navigate forward into spaces and places that you typically couldn't in the past, and feeling that expansion point, that is the deepening of a lot of those intimate connections at this time. Continuing and final card for today's spread, between our Page of Wands in its reversal in combination with our Justice card. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Knight of Cups in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy right now that is in the heart of the divine union frequency. One of the things that we effectively see right now is for a lot of the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency right now. Still, a lot of this energetic path work coming into play in relationality. And this is where it gets a little bit more difficult for the masculine, potentially, as opposed to the feminine. Because we do have here, we've got the Queen of Cups here with the Knight of Cups in its reversal. So there is a little bit of a hurdle in relationality. These energies aren't completely in alignment today. And that's because some of this authenticity, some of this vulnerability, while it may create a little bit more of a sense of balance for feminine today, it may feel a little bit more difficult energetically for the masculine. Because we see even now that for a lot of the masculine energy right now, there may be a lot of these feelings of some of these childhood wounds coming up. And some of these childhood wounds potentially have to do with the masculine navigating spaces or places that have to do with the realms of the emotion, or not being able to express emotions, or not being able to show emotions, or anything here. And we see even now, like, it's almost harder for the masculine energy to emotionally articulate. Like, this is masculine energy that, like, is better doing things tangibly than articulating the expression, than working through these. So I see even now, this may be a little bit harder, because what we're seeing here for the masculine is almost this moment that, like, the masculine, even at these points in the divine union, is like having a hard time energetically communicating what they're feeling. This is happening across all of the frequencies. For feminine, it's a bit energetically easier is what we're seeing, especially with this Queen of Cups here. But again, the feminine energy in the heart of the divine union almost recognizes and understands that. And so even for a lot of the energy right now, like I told you, the work of these energies right now, navigating through abandonment wounds, has to do with the feminine coming into a state of energetic trust towards the masculine, and the masculine coming into a state of energetic trust towards the feminine. For the masculine, it has more to do with that difficulty in articulating articulating on their emotionality. While for feminine, this has to do with that moment of building towards trusting the masculine energy. Because we see even now that like a lot of this work right now, this is feminine energy carrying a lot of past wounds. And this is masculine carrying a lot of past wounds. And this is why we see that a lot of this, like I told you, remember I said a few days ago, the masculine didn't want to talk about these things as much. Feminine was much more expressive on them. This is even being navigated at the heart of the divine union frequency right now. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, coming into divine union, this has to do with the gift of seeing the fact that these energies are being very energetically mindful about how someone can carry something. And this is what's creating the sense of energetic balance right now for energy coming into the divine union frequency, because it's not the fact that you're taking someone's wounds and doing what you would with them. These are energies that are being very energetically mindful. This is someone giving you something and saying, I want you to take this, and this is what I want you to do with it. And so almost that moment of someone being like, I would not typically do that, but you told me to do that, so I'm going to do that. Like that moment of having someone almost not just hold on to something for you, but navigate it in a way that you specifically articulate to them is what is creating the deepening of the energetic connections right now. So that's what we see. And that has to do with that point of being like, being compassionate to the sense of seeing another's wounds, but then being mindful enough of another energy to do, not to just personalize how you would do something, but recognizing how they would like something done. That is that moment that almost builds that sense of, again, energetic trust. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is in separation, a lot of this energy in separation right now is doing that difficult energetic work in identifying and recognizing. I want to say, even now, these are energies that are still going through this release process, right? So for feminine energy right now, there's that moment of energetic balance coming into play in relationality to the feminine, just utilizing a path of energetic discernment in relationality to what they are seeking from the masculine energy. And we see even now that for a lot of the feminine energy, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, that sense of, I want to say, even now, this is how the feminine energy is releasing some of that energetic bitterness from the past. Because a lot of the feminine energy almost realizing and recognizing and saying to themselves, if I don't release the energetic bitterness from the past, then it clouds my own view on what's coming towards me, right? That's the feminine energy just almost saying to themselves, I must find that ability to balance within myself in the present. If not, everything I see gets energetically colored from the past experience. If I don't allow myself to come into balance, and everything I see will be the optics of that negativity. So we see even now that's why the feminine energy is doing so much of that work to maintain that point of energetic balance, because it's almost something that saying to themselves, I don't want my past, I want to take what is invaluable from my past, but I don't want my past to energetically define the way I see the present. While for masculine energy and separation right now, this is the masculine energy. If coming into those spaces or places where you have those notes on yourself on how you navigated the past, this is the masculine energy saying, I don't want to repeat the past. if I see something here that I recognize that I can do better, I have to be very energetically mindful of those moments, because my tendency to do that doesn't disappear in the acknowledging of a tendency. So we see even now that this is masculine energy that's identifying their own tendencies, but then working to balance them, because that's the difficulty between seeing something that you want to change versus having to do the hard work of energetically changing it. Bottom of the deck on this reading today is, we've got here our Queen of Pentacles in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy right now in the divine union frequency. I gotta say, it's interesting too, because while we see that the masculine right now is going through a lot, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, going through a lot of energetic unpacking, if you will, right now. Feminine is much more energetically focused right now on practical matters, is what we're seeing. So that can also sometimes create a little bit of disparity between these energies, because this could almost create a little bit of a reverse effect here, because typically we often see the masculine more in that tangible space, because Venus is coming into Taurus. When we see this in the feminine, this is a lot of the feminine getting very, very not so much in a space or place. I gotta say, it's interesting. Feminine energy almost not in that space of needing to energetically or emotionally unpack right now. Focusing a lot more on the practicalities of circumstances or situations, right? And this is interesting at this time, because I can almost see a moment where masculine is like ready to like, this is like the tipsy point. Like the masculine's ready to like energetically unpack something, and now feminine's like, I can't right now. I can't right now because I'm navigating like tangibles. So we see even now, this could have a little bit to do right now with, even while these energies are in alignment in one way, where their focus and concentration is today may feel like it's in very different places. And I want to say we've almost got like a little bit of a reversal here that's happening in relationality to, like, I can see a lot of masculine energy potentially wanting or trying to have conversations towards feminine today, and feminine being like, I can't. Can we have that later? I'm really energetically busy. So that might be something that is happening today. Just be a little mindful. Again, if you're trying, I said this a few days ago to the feminine energy, I'm now going to say it to the masculine energy. You know, if you're trying to do a little bit of energetic unpacking right now with the feminine, you might want to like lead forth and say like, is now a good time? Because that could be a moment of the feminine being like, no, but, or almost having, and again, feminine, if that's the case, if masculine's coming to try to talk to you in that way, you know, articulating and saying like, not now, but later might be very valuable and important as well. Because I see even now like that, and I can even see it here. And especially, it's interesting too, because this is also coming through with the energy of coming into divine union of the difference between feminine wanting to talk about a boundary, right? Like wanting to discuss and unpack it, but almost like coming into that state or space of like, you know, like that, it's like, it's all about this nuance today. And I feel like something about that nuance can be a little bit difficult or frustrating, because there's like a little bit of that, like trying to like understand something in a way, because there's still like, I feel like this is some of that like retrograde energy still holding on. There's still that moment of masculine looking towards feminine and just being like, can you tell me what you mean? And feminine being like, I think can you understand me better? So this could be a point of just being a little careful about this today, because this could come up as something that feels like misunderstandings or energetic miscommunications, if you will. That is our daily collective read for today. I'd like to thank you so much for being here and experiencing it. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website, graystrega.com. My private readings are done over video, and if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber name at the point of payment. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, it is a two-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website. So I encourage you to do it there. Also, just a quick announcement, I would like to invite you all to join us. We have begun our tarot training class program. We are doing it over on my Substack, graystrega.substack.com. Each month we are doing a deep dive into a card in the tarot. There will be a live class as well as the providing of the course materials and the recording after the class. Last month, we focused on the Fool card. This month, we are focusing our journey on the Magician. That class will be held on Wednesday, May 15th at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern. Along with all you need to do to become a part of those classes is become a paid subscriber to my Substack. Your paid subscription will include access to the live classes as well as the materials and the coursework provided after the fact, along with a free one-on-one chat with me where you can ask any questions in relationality to what we are studying or your own tarot journey. Also, if you become a founding member to my Substack, included in your paid subscription will also be a free one-on-one mentorship reading with me, 1 hour mentorship reading, wherein we'll review where you are on your own tarot journey, and I'll give you some insights in terms of where I feel I can best help you in that way and what you can take from the classes going forward. I'm really excited. Thank you to everybody who's already joined us on that journey, and I hope that you'll become a part of it. And even if you don't become a paid subscriber to my Substack, I encourage you to join me over there. I'll be putting any of the updates in relationality to anything new that's occurring over there, as long as also that will also give you access to my weekly newsletter. I want to thank you guys so much for being here today and sharing in these messages, and we will do this again tomorrow.